Don't forget, tomorrow is Towers and Gods episode 17. Hope to see you there. I want to talk about the most iconic scenes in Tower of God. Season 1 and Season 2. I didn't include Season 3 because A, I couldn't really think of that many really standout iconic scenes, but B, and more so, I think the reason for that is because these chapters have just come out, we haven't had that much time to think about it, and I think as time goes on, we may look back at a lot of Season 3 and say, you know what? Traumarai, that was so iconic, or the canines, this particular part, that was iconic, but for now, I don't really think they hold up to iconic status from seasons 1 and 2. I'm gonna take these in chronological order, I'm not ranking them, but we're just gonna go from start of season 1 to the end of season 2, what moments, in my opinion, were the most standout and iconic. The first iconic scene is just gonna be the beginning of season 1. I feel like this is what establishes Tower of God as being what it is, this mysterious fantasy land that is so dark and full of lore and intrigue, seeing Yuri showing up and just seeing Bomb talking to this mysterious guy Hedon, and I just love the aesthetic, it's so different from any other comic or show I've ever seen, and I feel like when you read that chapter, it just gives you a totally different vibe, even from the rest of Tower of God, from there on out. Second scene is gonna be Rachel pushing Bomb. I mean, come on, this is the plot twist of the entire comic. This defines Tower of God going forward, and although some of us may have seen it coming, I don't know, I didn't see it coming even though I didn't really like Rachel that much, it's still dude, it changed everything. This flipped everything on its head. It not only is she betraying Bomb and trying to kill him, but we also find out at the same moment that she wasn't really paralyzed. The two things combined just make for a completely jaw-dropping moment. This is probably the most iconic scene in Tower of God, and I'm actually going to link you to a video that Naya made, partially inspiring this video, where he talks about this scene in full detail. Then we get to Wangnan's speech to Lurker and the direct aftermath of this speech. You might not think of this moment as being the iconic moment, but I actually think it stands up there with the greats, because this is the moment that everyone, including you, okay, don't deny it, everyone fell in love with Wangnan. Okay, leading up to this moment, he was kind of, a silly character who we're not sure if we want to follow him as our new main character. He's very weak, he's kind of a coward sometimes, he doesn't seem to be especially heroic, but once this scene happens, it flips everything on its head, and suddenly he becomes a fan favorite character. This, I feel is the defining moment for Wangnan, talking to Lurker, telling him that he's going to forgive him. Dude, this is the moment where we realize Wangnan is not just another random character, he is one of the central focuses of the entire Tower of God story. I'm putting Dan's scene with Rachel on here because all this time, we've been wanting someone to say something to Rachel, and this scene, in my opinion, this hit me, okay? Maybe this didn't hit you as much, but Dan telling Rachel, I believe in some translations, even dropping some pretty vulgar language, just telling her to basically go screw herself. I'm not gonna carry you up the tower, use your own damn legs, It's dude, for some reason, I just get chills every time I imagine this scene, because then she cripples him, He does get strength back into his legs, but he can never run the same way. It's just dude, this scene, it's, to me, one of the definitions of iconic, in my opinion. Bomb reuniting with Khun and Rak. I don't know, dude. Khun is one part, all right? Reuniting with Khun, that's also iconic, but I actually want to focus more on the Rak scene. This scene to me is one of the best scenes in all of Tower of God, definitely the best scene of the workshop battle. Him just finally giving up. He's been trying to run away from them, he got lured into basically almost revealing himself, and finally with the combined efforts of Iwa and Rak and Paracule, they finally find him, and Rak says, "You're alive." Seeing Rak cry, I think for the first time, and maybe the only time in the entire story that we've seen Rak cry. And he's just bawling, and they hug, and Viol finally, he doesn't run. He's okay, he finally gives in, bro. I can't, it's too emotional. I also think Bomb and Hoaquin, the fight on the Hell Train, him unleashing the souls. I know a lot of people think of this moment as a Deus Ex Machina moment, which, yes, it is, Albelda giving the souls to Bomb, I would agree, it's how are we gonna get out of this moment? And she kind of just gives us the power. but it doesn't take away from the emotional impact and, in my opinion, the strength of the scene, because I think what a lot of people fail to recognize is that this scene isn't just, oh, Bomb defeating Hoaquin, like what a big deal. It's also the millions and the billions of souls that Hoaquin has tormented throughout his history are finally getting the chance to get that one final revenge against him. And of course, when Bomb uses the souls, like in many of the cases, maybe even in all cases, it's kind of vague, but he burns them. Like he's actually like sacrificing them to do many of the things that he does, especially in season 3, but I believe in this moment as well. And it just shows you like they want to get back at Hoaquin. I don't know, like if you look at it that way, it's not even really Bomb finishing off Hoaquin. It's the souls of the people that Hoaquin has treated like ants and just worthless trash, finally getting that one last payback. Finally saying, you know what? We're gonna be the ones to take you down. And I think that all combined just makes for such an iconic scene and moment. Then we skip to Yuri versus Karaka. Absolutely iconic, okay? And if you're someone who you maybe skimmed through, or not skimmed, but you didn't start reading during the Name Hunt Station, you know, maybe you caught up during the season 3 era, you might be like, yeah, it was cool, but this was revolutionary because this was the first full-scale ranker battle in the entire series. Yes, we had Hansong and Ran and Yuri, but that was pretty small. We had Yuri and Pedro, but that was over pretty quickly. This was the first time that 2 rankers had gone all out against each other, seeing Yuri's attacks dwarfing the Name Hunt Station. The Name Hunt Station looks tiny in comparison, you know, and seeing Karaka and all his techniques, seeing Yuri bring out Kranos, absolutely huge for Tower of God. Like, this was something that we had never seen before in the story. This one is an obvious one. I'm the first to say that Floor of Death has its flaws. I don't think it's the best arc. I still think it's good, but, you know, it's not my favorite. I think it could have been handled a little bit better in some respects, but it does have, like, arguably maybe the second most, like, important scene or iconic scene, and that is just getting the entire backstory of Bomb. We find out who Bomb's family is. We find out who he is. We find out his purpose. We find out about Jihad and the true origin of the families. That is absolutely huge. This was actually when I first caught up to Tower of God, was like beginning of Floor of Death, and getting this chapter was mind-boggling because it was like there was barely any content after this, and it was just insane. And I think, you know, you're reading it and you're so excited, but looking back on it, it's like that is how, like, it was just dropped out of nowhere almost, and just absolutely mind-bogglingly insane. So easily making and deserving the list. This might be the most iconic fight scene because this is the first time that Bomb and Jihad, even if it's not the real Jihad, are actually like fighting each other, and it's setting up like the entire story. Like, this is the main protagonist and most likely the main antagonist, you know, the past version of him anyway. And, like, it's just incredible seeing these two, their personalities clashing, seeing Jihad finally give in to Bomb and saying, you know what, you deserve to win. Like, just the entire interaction is legendary. And hopefully you didn't forget this, but this is also the first time in the entire series up until this point that Bomb uses a technique and develops a style that is his own. He had never used his own technique before, unless you count, like, the season 1 thing with Huariyun, but I'm not counting that. This is the first time Bomb consciously uses an ability that he has created. That is so crazy, you know? He's just been copying abilities all this time. So that combined with Bomb and Jihad being like protagonist, antagonist, it's an absolutely iconic fight and moment. And finally, the last iconic moment on this list, although of course there are so many more that I could have mentioned, but I had to sort of pick the ones that stuck out to me, is Bomb reuniting with the Black March. Because, you know, when I read this, it was easy to just kind of be like, oh, I can't wait for the next chapter. But looking back on it, this is the first time since season 1 that Bomb had actually reunited with the Black March again. Like, think about that, you know? And Bomb getting to absorb it and use its power? Like, that is, Like, thinking back on it, like, it's just such a perfect parallel to everything that had happened at the start of the story, and such a cool way to end Season 2. It really did feel like an end of an era, like, we kind of went back to our roots, and yet everything has changed. We're fighting in this great war. I don't know, I absolutely love it. I love that we see Bomb holding the needle once again. It's like, dude, just like old times. So that moment is also absolutely iconic. Now, there are many more iconic moments that I probably should have included, but again, I can't include them all, so I want to know, like, what are some obvious ones that I should have put on here? I want to hear them in the comments down below, but if you enjoyed my list and you thought I had some interesting thoughts on these various scenes and these events in Tower of God, leave a like. I would appreciate that if you did drop a like on this video, and subscribe if you want to see more Tower of God content, and don't forget that tomorrow, Towers and Gods is live with episode 17. We're going back 15,000 years ago. We're in the middle of our climb. We're still in the early stages, so if you want to hop on board, check us out, see what's going on, then give us a chance and see if you have some fun watching our show. I'll put the link down below. And with that being said, I will see you in my next Tower of God video. Take care.